Now, this happened to one of my friends named Grace at the time. Grace was a friend of mine from elementary school, and she told me this story happened to her sometime when she just recently got a job as a teacher. She had to stay longer at one of the days as they had been a few meetings that she had to attend to. So far, anything abnormal or anything scary had happened. But after this incident, she does have second thoughts on what else could have possibly happened. Now, Grace was coming out of the meeting with a few teachers, but said she had to take care of a few things, so she was going to be a bit. The teachers understood that, and she just went over to her classroom just to get a few things ready for the next day. As she was doing that, she ended up hearing what sounded like odd shuffling coming from the hallway. At first, she thought that it could have been one of her coworkers, but when she looked, she couldn't see anyone. There was nobody there at all, and it really kind of confused her. Whatever it was, she ends up going back to doing what she was doing, only to hear what seemed like running. She ended up looking out, and she couldn't see anybody, which was weird. She asked one of the teachers if they happened to be maybe running around, and they said they hadn't, and they even never passed through the classroom. It was really scary knowing that there would have been someone in the school. Of course, Grace called the police and alerted the school board about it, and they sent a police officer to do an investigation of the school just to make sure that there was no one really in there. However, they couldn't really find any traces of anyone there. The next day, Grace was dismissing everybody, and once she did that, she ended up going back to her desk, and she was just basically doing some more paperwork. As she was doing more paperwork, she ended up looking up to hear that there was someone outside. She looked, and it appeared to be maybe a student a bit taller than how she was. Obviously, it confused her to the point, and she obviously didn't know exactly what was going on, but they seemed to be looking straight at her. As they were looking straight at she this creep thing was looking at her. Of course, it had to be a student. She asked if it was a student from her class or someone else's class, but the person didn't respond. Instead, he just made this really weird expression, and he started looking weird at her. Now, she ends up saying that she would call the cops, and whatever this figure did, he turned around and walked away from the classroom. She ended up alerting the police again, and this time they looked around, and she gave a good description of what they looked like. They looked to be about a student, and it seemed like it was no one she recognized. So, as it turns out that this man happened to be a high school student, and he had been stalking young ladies in the school. In elementary school, he had been doing that. He was eventually expelled from the high school and was sent to juvie for a while. As of this time, Grace didn't understood what this guy could have done. What could he have done to her was definitely one question that nobody wants to know. But however, ever since that day, Grace is now more alert and is more careful around her surroundings because you never know who or what could be watching in the shadows. Now, this took place back in 2016 in the summer. Now, my friend Alex used to work at Walmart at the time of the story. While during the school year was going on, he usually worked the night shifts, and most of the time he never really had problems. Maybe a few minor instances, but this one is definitely one that he felt that he should be shared. Now, at the time of the story, he was in sophomore year, but going into junior year of high school. As Alex was doing his shifts, he usually gets paid pretty decently. Maybe the pay wasn't really the best, but since it was during the summertime, he was able to do full-time works. However, one day, Walmart had called him in because apparently some coworker had gotten sick and he had to call in sick. Alex decided to take the job because it was more money at the end of the day. As he was doing his shift in the morning, just mainly restocking shelves and stuff like that, he ends up looking to see that there was this kid. Apparently, this kid looked to be maybe about 7 years old, and we're looking at a toy that happened to be a Barbie doll. However, for though he looked to see that there was this man that didn't look like her father, but instead he looked older. He looked scruffy looking, to which Alex felt a little uncomfortable. Why was this man with his daughter? Or this kid? But it looked too young to be a daughter. It could have been maybe just a granddaughter. That was obviously Alex's guess. However, this man had lured her away, and he noticed that the mom was looking for her kid. As it turns out, the man with the girl was walking near the front of the door. Alex ended up going over and asking the man if that he found the girl's mother, and he ended up backing away and say, "Oh, this is her daughter. I didn't even know that." As that man said that, he ended up walking out like as if nothing happened. Now, the daughter was reunited with the mom, but it was really a creepy occurrence knowing that this man was probably walking out with the girl. He could have been a predator for all Alex knew, but there was nothing really to know what he was doing. At the time of the story, though, Alex did report it to the Walmart staff about it, and of course police were called, but they could never find this man, as this man never returned to Walmart. It was obvious that this man could have been maybe somewhere where maybe a homeless man, or maybe he could have been with someone, but there was no options or choices as to where he was or stuff like that. There was no way to track him down. So at the time of the story, Alex knows better that there could be dangerous predators like that out there. However, Alex never saw that man again, and he hoped that man is in prison or in God knows what, but hopefully that man never comes back to Walmart. He never saw him again since then, and it still shakens him up knowing that this man could have walked out with a young girl, but it really sickens him to the point where he just wonders, why do people end up becoming so cruel? That was the question that will never leave him. This story is told in a perspective of a male. This happened to one of my friends who used to work at Target at high school. Now, this was sometime in 2016, and this was around sometime in May, and it was just before exams are going on and stuff like that. My friend at the time of the story, I am going to call him Sam. Sam was 18 at the time of this story, and he did get a part-time job at Target to make an extra cash. He'd been working there for at least a year, and the pay was actually decently well. As Sam likes working at Target, it wasn't really the best like Walmart, but it definitely was a retail store. Now, that's when Sam started texting this one person who happened to be texting his phone while he was in the break room playing video games. He was talking with this person who claimed to be a girl, and her name was Kelly. Kelly started asking him stuff like where he lived and stuff like that. Now, Sam didn't want to give it out, but said that he wasn't comfortable. As this texting back and forth with Kelly went on for at least a bit, that's when Kelly decided that she would FaceTime him. But Sam didn't feel comfortable with that, so he declined, and she apparently didn't respond. It was really creepy knowing that this person had gotten Sam's number somehow, but there was no evidence as to how he got the number. So he ended up going to work, and ever since then, nothing like that had happened for at least a week. A week goes by and he ends up going back to work when he looks behind him to see that there was this woman was following him. He asked her if she needed help, and she said nothing when he asked her. So he walked away. Apparently this girl had been walking around the store stalking Sam. Sam was starting to get uncomfortable, so he ended up reporting it to his manager, who the manager ended up taking a look at the footage on the cameras. They can't seem to identify the woman as the cameras weren't really that great. Fast forward to around a month later, Sam was pretty much walking in the Target when all of a sudden he ended up looking in to see that there was this girl screaming. It happened to be the same girl that was stalking him throughout the house, throughout the store. She was screaming and yelling and stuff. She was even threatening to kill employees and stuff like that. Sam ended up going outside of the doors of Target to call the police, and the police were on their way while he was still on the line. Apparently this girl had been saying about stuff like she wanted to meet Sam, she wanted to kill him, stuff like that. Sam was utterly shocked knowing what this had to occur while being in the placement. He obviously waited outside as he couldn't take a chance on going in, thinking this woman might hurt him. He stayed out there for at least a little while, and he waited for at least quite a bit. But even then, the police arrived and they arrested the woman, and they had taken her to a prison. As it turns out, she had a history of acting out like this and violent towards people in stores whenever she doesn't get her way. She had been mentally unstable for at least a while, to which it really explains it why she wasn't on meds. Sam obviously didn't know what this woman would do to him if she were to attack him, but it's definitely one of the most weirdest but also freaky encounters that ever happened. Sam still gets confused to this day as to why this woman started coming in and yelling and screaming, but he probably doesn't want to think of the latter option.